Long before the modern world became bright and restless, the land of Judea rested beneath wide open skies. Nights were deep and unbroken, filled with countless stars that shimmered softly in the darkness. Villages were small and scattered, connected by narrow paths rather than roads. When evening came, lamps were lit gently, conversations grew quiet, and families gathered close. The rhythm of life followed the sun and the seasons, steady and predictable, offering comfort in its simplicity. The Roman Empire ruled these lands from afar, its power felt more than seen. Soldiers passed through towns occasionally, reminders of authority and order, but most days were calm. Farmers worked their fields patiently, fishermen cast their nets at dawn, and craftsmen shaped wood and stone with practiced hands. There was little excess and little hurry. People lived close to the earth, listening to the wind, watching the sky, and trusting tomorrow to arrive as it always had. In this quiet world, stories were passed down from generation to generation. Elders spoke of ancient promises, of hope that would one day arrive to ease suffering and guide hearts. These stories were not shouted, they were whispered by firelight, spoken softly before sleep, carried gently in memory. Though life was peaceful on the surface, many hearts carried unseen burdens. People longed for reassurance, for meaning, for a sense that their quiet lives mattered within a much larger story. As night fell across Judea, the land seemed to breathe slowly. The wind moved through olive trees with a soft, steady sound. Animals settled into rest. Even the stars appeared to glow more calmly, watching over the earth in silence. There was no sense of urgency in the air, only patience. Time itself seemed unhurried, as if it knew that something important was approaching, something that would not arrive with force, but with gentleness. Far from palaces and centers of power, in places rarely noticed by history, life continued quietly. Homes of stone and clay held families close together. Mothers rocked children to sleep. Fathers rested after long days, and elders closed their eyes with prayers whispered in gratitude. These nights were simple, familiar, and comforting. No one expected change. No one sensed that the course of human history was slowly turning toward a single, quiet moment. The sky above Judea stretched endlessly, dark and peaceful. Constellations moved slowly, marking the passage of time without sound. Travelers rested along the roads, wrapped in cloaks, listening to the night. The world felt complete in its stillness, unaware that it stood at the edge of something new. Hope was already drawing near, though it would arrive without announcement. In distant towns, the same calm repeated itself. Lamps flickered, shadows danced on walls, and silence deepened as sleep took hold. There were no signs, no warnings, no disruptions, only a gentle continuity, night following day as it always had. And yet, beneath this familiar rhythm, ancient promises quietly waited to be fulfilled. The people of the land did not live in fear, they lived in routine. They trusted the sunrise, the harvest, and the passing of seasons. Their faith was woven into daily life, not displayed loudly, but carried quietly in actions and prayers. This faith rested patiently, like a seed beneath the soil, unseen but alive. As midnight approached, even the smallest sounds faded. Footsteps ceased, voices fell silent. The world became still enough to hear one's own breath. In this deep quiet, history leaned forward. The waiting was almost complete. Somewhere along a dark road, travelers moved slowly, guided by stars and instinct. Their journey was not easy, but it was steady. Each step carried them closer to a place that seemed unimportant to the world, yet chosen for a purpose far greater than anyone could imagine. The night welcomed them with calm, offering no resistance. The land itself seemed gentle, as though it understood the importance of what was to come. Hills rested in shadow, valleys slept beneath mist. The air was cool, soothing tired bodies and quieting restless thoughts. Nothing hurried them, everything allowed them to arrive in its own time. This was a world prepared not by noise, but by silence, not by power, but by patience, not by command, but by calm. It was within this stillness that the story of Jesus Christ would begin, not as a sudden interruption, but as a natural unfolding. And so the night deepened, wrapping the land in peace. The waiting continued, gentle and unbroken. The world rested, unaware that hope was already drawing breath, soon to enter quietly, without demand, into the heart of humanity. The night that carried Mary and Joseph toward Bethlehem was calm and unhurried. The road beneath their feet was narrow and quiet, lit only by starlight and the faint glow of distant lamps. Each step was slow and deliberate. Mary rested often, and Joseph walked beside her, steady and attentive. The world around them offered no urgency, only patience. Hills rested in shadow, and the cool air softened the long journey. Above them, the sky remained vast and watchful, holding its silence gently. Bethlehem was small, its streets already full of travelers who had arrived earlier. Doors were closed, lamps dimmed, and voices quieted as families settled into rest. When Mary and Joseph sought shelter, they found no room prepared for them. Yet even this moment carried no panic. Instead, they were guided to a simple stable, a place meant for animals, not people. The space was modest, quiet, and warm enough to offer rest. Straw covered the ground, and animals breathed slowly in the darkness. The night accepted them without judgment. Inside the stable, time seemed to slow even further. The air was still, broken only by soft movements and gentle breaths. Mary gave birth quietly, without ceremony or witness. There were no crowds, no celebrations, no signs of importance. When the child was born, she wrapped him carefully in cloth and held him close. His breathing was calm, his presence peaceful. Joseph watched silently, his heart steady, filled with devotion and awe. Outside, the world remained unaware. Bethlehem slept as it always had. Yet the sky above seemed different, as though the stars leaned closer, glowing with a softer light. According to ancient belief, angels filled the heavens, not with thunder, but with gentle songs of joy. Their voices carried comfort rather than command, spreading peace across the fields beyond the town. Nearby, shepherds kept watch over their flocks. Their nights were usually quiet and predictable, marked by routine and rest. On this night, however, a calm presence surrounded them, drawing their attention upward. They felt no fear, only reassurance. Guided gently, they followed the path toward the stable. When they arrived, they entered quietly, respectful of the stillness. They saw the child resting peacefully in his mother's arms and felt a deep calm settle within them. They did not stay long. They did not disturb the silence. They simply witnessed and carried the peace back with them into the night. The newborn Jesus slept softly, unaware of the world he had entered. His tiny chest rose and fell steadily, matching the slow rhythm of the night. There was no sign of destiny in that moment, no visible mark of greatness, only warmth, stillness, and rest. The simplicity of the scene held a quiet beauty. Nothing demanded attention, everything invited calm. As hours passed, the stable remained wrapped in silence. Mary rested, her thoughts gentle and clear. Joseph remained close, protective and watchful. The animals shifted occasionally, their movements slow and untroubled. The night air flowed in softly, carrying the scent of earth and hay. Time moved gently, without pressure. This birth did not interrupt the world. It did not announce itself with force.
It arrived as naturally as sleep arrives at the end of a long day. In a place often overlooked, among those considered unimportant, hope entered humanity quietly. The world continued its rhythm, unaware that history had changed direction without noise. Beyond the stable, the land of Judea remained at rest. Lamps flickered and dimmed. Travelers slept where they lay. The wind whispered through trees and across fields. The stars continued their slow journey across the sky. Nothing hurried. Everything allowed the moment to exist fully. The child remained cradled in peace. His presence did not demand belief or attention. It simply existed, offering calm to those who came near. This was not a beginning shaped by power or wealth, but by humility and quiet trust. The night embraced it fully. As dawn approached, the sky slowly lightened, though the stable remained softly shadowed. Morning would come as it always did, without announcement. Life would continue. Yet something new now rested within the world, growing gently, unseen by most. This humble beginning reflected the nature of what was to come. There would be no rushing, no forceful change. The path ahead would unfold slowly, step by step, word by word, heart by heart. Peace had entered first, preparing the way. The night eventually gave way to early light, but the calm remained. The child slept on, wrapped in warmth and quiet love. The world moved forward, carrying this moment within it, though few would ever know how close they had been to history's turning point. And so, in silence and simplicity, the life of Jesus Christ continued its gentle unfolding. The night released him into the world softly, without disturbance, leaving behind a stillness that would echo through generations.
After the quiet night of his birth, life continued gently for Mary, Joseph, and the child Jesus. They did not remain in places of attention or wonder. Instead, they returned to ordinary paths, moving away from the brief moment when heaven felt close to earth. Their journey led them to Nazareth, a small and humble town surrounded by rolling hills, narrow paths, and open skies. Nazareth was not known for greatness or power. It was a place of simplicity, where life unfolded slowly and predictably, offering comfort through routine. In Nazareth, days began with soft morning light touching stone walls and dusty roads. Birds stirred quietly, and the town awakened without haste. Families rose early, tending to their daily tasks with patience. Jesus grew within this rhythm, surrounded by calm voices and familiar faces. There was no sense of destiny placed upon him by the town. To them, he was simply a child, growing day by day like any other. Mary cared for him with gentle attention, guiding him through the earliest lessons of kindness and trust. Her words were never hurried. She spoke softly, teaching through example more than instruction. Joseph worked steadily as a carpenter, shaping wood with practiced hands. Jesus often sat nearby, watching carefully, absorbing the calm discipline of the work. Each movement was deliberate, each tool used with care. Through this quiet observation, Jesus learned patience, humility, and focus. As the years passed, Jesus began to assist Joseph in the workshop. He learned how to measure, cut, and smooth rough edges into something useful and strong. The scent of wood filled the air, mingling with the stillness of the space. There was comfort in repetition, peace in routine. No one rushed him. No one demanded perfection. The work itself taught him balance and steadiness. Nazareth remained quiet through these years. Its streets echoed softly with footsteps, never crowded, never loud. Neighbors greeted one another kindly, sharing simple conversations and familiar smiles. Life was not filled with excitement,
but it was filled with stability. In this environment, Jesus' character formed naturally, without pressure or display. At night, the town rested early, lamps dimmed, voices softened, and the world slipped into silence. Jesus slept beneath open skies that stretched endlessly above Nazareth. Stars watched over him as they had on the night of his birth, steady and unchanged. These nights were not marked by dreams of greatness, but by rest and peace. The stillness shaped his inner world, grounding him deeply. As a young boy, Jesus showed curiosity about life and faith. He listened carefully when elders spoke, asking thoughtful questions rather than seeking attention. When scriptures were read, he listened with focus, not urgency. His interest was calm and sincere, not driven by ambition. Those around him noticed his quiet wisdom, yet he never placed himself above others. The seasons passed gently. Spring brought soft colors and renewed life. Summer carried warmth and long days of work. Autumn arrived with harvest and gratitude. Winter slowed everything, drawing families closer together. Through every season, Jesus remained rooted in the same calm rhythm, shaped by time rather than haste. There were moments of joy, moments of difficulty, moments of ordinary struggle, yet none disrupted the peaceful flow of life. Loss, effort, and fatigue were met with acceptance rather than resistance. Jesus learned that life did not need to be hurried to be meaningful. Stillness itself held value. As he entered adolescence, his strength grew, but his demeanor remained gentle. He did not seek dominance or recognition. He remained observant, thoughtful, and quiet. When others spoke loudly, he listened. When others hurried, he slowed. This balance drew people toward him without him ever asking. Nazareth continued to shape him through its simplicity. There were no distractions of power or wealth. There was only work, faith, rest, and community. In this calm environment, Jesus developed deep inner peace, a foundation that would later support his teachings. The years passed almost unnoticed by the world beyond Nazareth. History recorded little of this time, yet these were the years that mattered most. They were years of preparation through silence, of strength built through patience, of wisdom formed through observation rather than instruction. Jesus learned how to live among people without seeking control over them. He learned how to listen without judgment. He learned how to rest without guilt. These lessons did not come from books or speeches, but from daily life lived slowly and intentionally. As night after night settled over Nazareth, the quiet continued to work within him. Each peaceful evening added depth to his understanding. Each silent morning strengthened his resolve. There was no rush toward the future. Everything unfolded in its own time. By the time Jesus reached adulthood, his heart was steady, his mind clear, and his spirit deeply grounded. The stillness of Nazareth had prepared him gently, without force or urgency, for the path that would one day open before him. And so Part 3 ends, not with action, but with quiet readiness. A life shaped by silence stood prepared to step forward, not in haste, but in calm assurance. The night continues, and rest remains.
As the years in Nazareth settled into memory, a gentle shift began to take place within Jesus. It did not arrive suddenly or with force. There was no dramatic sign, no loud declaration. Instead, it came quietly, like a soft awareness growing clearer with time. Life in Nazareth continued as it always had, calm and familiar, yet something within him slowly began to lean forward, listening for a path that had not yet revealed itself. The days remained simple. Work continued in the carpenter's workshop, hands shaping wood, movements steady and deliberate. Conversations were unremarkable,
Meals were modest, evenings were quiet. Yet beneath this familiar rhythm, a deeper sense of purpose rested patiently. It did not disturb the peace of daily life. It existed alongside it, waiting. As Jesus reached about 30 years of age, the feeling became clearer, though never urgent. It was less like being pushed and more like being gently guided. The stillness that had shaped him now invited him outward. And so, without haste or announcement, he prepared to leave Nazareth, carrying with him the calm foundation built through years of silence. His journey led him toward the Jordan River, where a man known as John the Baptist spoke to those who gathered. John's message was one of reflection, repentance, and return to what truly mattered. People came quietly, drawn not by spectacle, but by a desire for renewal. The river flowed steadily, its waters cool and reflective, mirroring the wide sky above. When Jesus arrived at the riverbank, he did not stand apart or above others. He waited calmly among the people, listening, observing, remaining still. When the moment came, he stepped into the water. The river embraced him gently, flowing around him with quiet consistency. As he was baptized, the world seemed to pause. The air felt lighter, the moment deeply present. According to belief, the heavens opened, and a sense of divine approval settled upon him, not loudly, but peacefully. After this moment, Jesus did not immediately begin to teach or gather followers. Instead, he chose solitude. He moved away from crowds and voices, traveling into the wilderness. The desert stretched wide and empty, offering silence rather than comfort. Days passed slowly beneath open skies. The sun rose and fell without interruption. Nights arrived cool and still, filled with stars. In the wilderness there was no distraction. Hunger came and went. Fatigue settled in gently. Thoughts rose and faded. In this quiet space, Jesus reflected deeply, not fighting the silence, but allowing it to shape him further. The stillness did not weaken him, it strengthened him. Without noise, clarity emerged naturally. There was no rush to return. Time moved differently in the desert. Each day stood on its own, complete and unhurried. The absence of comfort revealed resilience. The absence of voices revealed truth. When the time came to leave the wilderness, Jesus carried with him a calm certainty, steady and unshaken. He returned not as someone seeking recognition, but as someone ready to serve. His presence remained gentle. His pace remained slow. There was no urgency in his movements, no demand in his voice. The path ahead unfolded naturally, step by step. Jesus began to walk through villages and towns, not announcing himself, not drawing attention. He spoke when invited, listened more than he spoke, and observed the needs around him with quiet care. His words were simple and clear, shaped by years of silence. He spoke of love that required patience, of forgiveness that freed the heart, and of trust that replaced fear. People gathered not because they were commanded to, but because they felt at ease in his presence. His voice carried no pressure. His words settled gently, offering comfort rather than challenge. Listeners felt seen and understood, as though their inner burdens were acknowledged without being exposed. When evening came, Jesus often withdrew to quiet places. He rested beneath open skies, prayed in silence, and allowed the stillness to restore him. These moments were not escapes from responsibility, but sources of strength. Night after night, the calm returned, deepening his resolve. As his journey continued, the path remained slow and intentional. There was no rush to reach an ending. Each day held value on its own. Each encounter was given full attention. Jesus did not attempt to change everything at once. He allowed transformation to happen gently, within time. Those who met him sensed something steady and reassuring. There was no sense of fear or uncertainty in his presence. Even difficult truths were spoken softly, wrapped in compassion. He offered rest rather than demands, guidance rather than control. The stillness that had shaped his early years now flowed outward, touching others quietly. Peace moved from heart to heart, not through force, but through calm connection. This was the beginning of his public path, yet it carried the same quiet nature as his beginnings. As nights passed and journeys continued, the story unfolded without noise. There were no dramatic announcements, no declarations of power, only a steady presence, walking patiently through the world, offering light without disturbance.
After emerging from the wilderness, Jesus did not step into the world with noise or declaration. He returned gently, carrying within him a stillness that had deepened rather than hardened. His steps were unhurried, his expression calm, and his presence unassuming. There was no visible difference in his appearance, yet those who encountered him sensed something quietly reassuring, as though peace itself walked beside him. He began by moving slowly through familiar regions, along paths shaped by generations of footsteps. Dust rose softly beneath his sandals and settled again without disturbance. The land welcomed him as it always had, fields resting in the sun, hills standing patiently beneath wide skies, villages breathing gently in the rhythm of daily life. Nothing rushed to meet him, and he did not rush toward anything. Jesus spoke first to ordinary people, those whose lives were shaped by work and routine. Fishermen stood beside their boats, repairing nets with practiced hands. Farmers rested at the edges of fields after long hours under the sun. Families gathered outside their homes in the evening, sharing food and quiet conversation. To them, Jesus spoke softly, never raising his voice, never commanding attention. His words flowed naturally, like conversation rather than instruction. He spoke of love not as an idea, but as a way of being. He spoke of forgiveness not as obligation, but as release. His teachings did not press upon the mind, they settled gently into the heart. People listened not because they feared consequences, but because they felt understood. His presence created space to breathe, to reflect, to rest. Often he taught outdoors, beneath open skies. The wind carried his voice lightly, and the sounds of nature blended with his words. Birds moved through the air above, leaves rustled quietly, and the earth itself seemed to listen. These moments felt less like lessons and more like shared stillness, where understanding arrived without effort. As days passed, small groups began to follow him, not formally, not with commitment, but with curiosity and trust. They walked beside him, shared meals, and rested together at night. There was no strict structure, no hierarchy. Everyone moved at the same pace, shaped by the same calm rhythm. When questions arose, Jesus answered patiently. When confusion appeared, he did not hurry clarity. He allowed understanding to come in its own time. Silence was never uncomfortable in his presence. It was welcomed, respected, and often more meaningful than speech. Many believed that healing followed him, not because he sought it, but because compassion flowed naturally through him. The sick felt comfort in his presence, the weary felt rest, and the troubled felt seen. These moments were quiet, almost private, never turned into displays. Jesus often asked those he helped to return peacefully to their lives without drawing attention. When crowds grew larger, he did not remain. He would gently withdraw to quieter places, often alone, sometimes with a few companions. There, beneath stars or beside calm water, he rested in prayer and silence. These retreats were not escapes, but renewals, moments where stillness restored balance. Night after night, the rhythm repeated.
walking by day, resting by evening, silence deepening with darkness. Fires burned low, conversations softened, and sleep arrived gently. Jesus often remained awake longer than others, sitting quietly, listening to the night. His presence felt steady and watchful, never restless. He began to speak in stories, simple images drawn from everyday life, seeds growing quietly beneath soil, lamps glowing softly in darkness, shepherds watching their flocks through the night. These stories did not demand explanation. They allowed listeners to find meaning naturally at their own pace. Those who followed him noticed that he never hurried the journey. When someone lagged behind, he slowed. When someone struggled, he waited. There was no sense of being left behind. The path itself seemed to adapt to those walking it. As his presence became more widely known, people from nearby towns came quietly, often at dawn or near evening. They brought their worries, their fatigue, their unspoken hopes. Jesus received them without judgment. He listened fully, responding with gentleness rather than certainty. Often his calm was enough. Religious leaders began to hear of him, though at this stage there was little concern. He did not challenge openly, did not seek authority. His teachings were soft, his gatherings informal. There was nothing threatening in stillness. Yet beneath the calm, something transformative was unfolding. People began to treat one another with more patience. Old conflicts softened. Hearts that had been closed opened gently. These changes did not announce themselves. They appeared quietly, like morning light spreading across a sleeping landscape. Jesus continued to walk, continued to speak, continued to rest. Days blended into one another without urgency. There was no sense of approaching climax, only ongoing presence. Each moment stood complete in itself. At times he sat alone near water, watching reflections ripple and settle. At other times he shared simple meals with companions, eating slowly, savoring the quiet companionship. Even laughter was soft, unforced, arriving naturally and fading gently. Those closest to him began to sense that his life itself was the teaching, not just his words, but his pace, his patience, his ability to remain calm amid uncertainty. He demonstrated rest in a restless world, offering an alternative way of being. As weeks turned into months, his path widened slightly, touching more lives. Yet the tone never changed. Calm remained central. Silence remained respected. Love remained gentle. Evenings often ended with prayer spoken quietly or held inwardly. There were no elaborate rituals, only presence. The night accepted these moments fully, wrapping them in stillness. This extended season of teaching and presence did not seek to conclude. It existed as a continuous flow, uninterrupted by urgency or fear. The future was allowed to remain unknown.
As time continued to move gently forward, the calm presence of Jesus began to spread a little farther than before. His days followed a steady rhythm, unbroken by haste. He walked familiar roads again and again, not because he lacked direction, but because repetition itself carried meaning. Each return brought deeper understanding, both for him and for those who quietly followed. Villages welcomed him without ceremony. He entered without announcement, often at the edges of the day, when the sun was low and the air had begun to cool. People noticed him not by sight, but by feeling. Conversations softened when he arrived. Movements slowed. A sense of ease settled into the space around him, as though the world itself exhaled. Those who had listened to him before returned, drawn not by expectation, but by familiarity. They came without questions prepared, without demands. They simply sat, stood, or walked nearby, allowing his presence to shape the moment.
Silence was common in these gatherings, and it was never uncomfortable. It felt natural, like resting beside calm water. Jesus continued to speak gently, often using images drawn from everyday life. He spoke of growth that happened unseen, of patience that carried quiet strength, of trust that did not require certainty. His words were never sharp. They were rounded, softened by compassion, shaped by stillness. People carried them away easily, as one carries warmth after sitting in the sun. As the weeks passed, a small group began to stay closer to him. They did not declare themselves followers. They simply walked beside him more often. Meals were shared slowly. Bread was broken without ceremony. Water was passed hand to hand. These simple acts created bonds deeper than formal promises. Jesus noticed each person carefully. He spoke differently to each, not changing his truth, but adjusting his tone. To the tired, he offered rest. To the uncertain, reassurance. To the restless, patience. He never hurried anyone forward. Growth was allowed to happen at its own pace. At night, they often rested outdoors. Fires burned low. The sky stretched endlessly above them, filled with stars that moved slowly across the darkness. Jesus sometimes remained awake longer than the others, sitting quietly, listening to the sounds of night, the crackle of firewood, the distant call of animals, the steady breathing of those asleep beside him. All of it formed a gentle rhythm. In these moments, there was no sense of destination. The journey itself felt complete. The night wrapped everything in calm, and nothing felt unfinished. As his presence became more widely known, people arrived from farther places. They came softly, often alone or in small groups. Some carried weariness from long days of labor. Others carried unspoken sorrow. They did not arrive seeking answers as much as relief, and in his presence, many found it. Jesus listened more than he spoke. He allowed stories to unfold without interruption. When words failed, silence filled the space kindly. Often, nothing more was needed. People left feeling lighter, though nothing outward had changed. Those who walked closely with him began to notice the weight of this growing attention, not as pressure, but as responsibility. Yet Jesus did not respond by organizing or controlling. He responded by slowing even more. His pace remained gentle, reminding those around him that calm was not lost when the path widened. Religious leaders began to notice him more clearly during this time. Reports reached them quietly, carried through conversations rather than proclamations. A teacher who spoke without authority, yet carried influence. A man who gathered people without commands. There was curiosity, but not yet alarm. Jesus did not seek them out, nor did he avoid them. When paths crossed, he greeted them calmly, speaking with respect and patience. His words did not challenge directly. They invited reflection. Some listened, others turned away. He allowed both. Days continued to pass gently. Healing followed him not as spectacle, but as quiet outcome. Those in pain found comfort. Those burdened found rest. These moments were not announced. They often happened at the edges of gatherings, half hidden, wrapped in privacy. When gratitude was offered, Jesus received it quietly and redirected attention away from himself. He reminded people to return to their lives gently, carrying peace rather than excitement. The inner circle around him slowly became more defined, though never formally named. They learned his rhythm by walking with him. They learned when to speak by noticing his silence. They learned when to rest by following his example. Sometimes misunderstandings arose. Expectations formed quietly in the minds of others. Jesus addressed these not with correction, but with presence. He continued to live as he always had, allowing clarity to emerge naturally. As the path continued, there were moments of deeper reflection. Jesus spoke of challenges ahead, though always softly, without fear. His words carried acceptance rather than warning. Those listening felt the weight, yet also the calm beneath it. Night after night, the same gentle rhythm returned. Walking, listening, resting. The world did not feel rushed to an ending. It felt held within a larger calm, where every moment had space. Those who followed him most closely sensed that something meaningful was unfolding, though they could not name it. There was no anxiety in this not knowing. It felt natural, like trusting the coming of dawn without watching the clock. Jesus continued to model rest within movement, silence within speech, strength within gentleness. His life itself remained the message. As this season deepened, the stillness that had shaped him now shaped others more clearly. Calm spread quietly, without resistance. Even uncertainty felt less heavy in his presence.
As the journey continued, Jesus moved steadily through towns and villages, his pace unhurried, his presence calm. People came to see him quietly, drawn not by spectacle, but by the deep sense of peace he carried. His days were measured, full of small acts of compassion, patient listening, and gentle guidance. Each moment unfolded naturally, without force, like water slowly carving its path over stones. The evenings began to hold a deeper sense of reflection. As the sun dipped lower, casting warm golden light across the hills and fields, Jesus sought quiet places to rest, to pray, to contemplate. Sometimes alone, sometimes with a few companions, he allowed stillness to flow into every movement, every word, every thought. The rhythm of these days was soft, slow, and restorative, teaching those around him the value of calm patience and gentle understanding. Preparations for the gathering that would become known as the Last Supper began quietly, without fanfare. Friends and followers moved with care, arranging a space that was simple yet sufficient. There was no need for grandeur. The simplicity itself carried a deep sense of reverence. Candles were lit softly, their light flickering calmly against the walls. Bread and wine were placed gently on the table. Everything was done deliberately, with mindfulness and without haste. As the night approached, Jesus and his companions gathered in a private room. The air was filled with a quiet anticipation, not of excitement, but of awareness. Each person present felt the weight of the moment, though it was wrapped in tranquility. Conversations were soft, gestures deliberate, and every movement carried intention. Nothing intruded upon the calm that filled the room. Jesus spoke to them in gentle tones, sharing simple words about care, responsibility, and compassion. He did not lecture or demand. He invited reflection, allowing each listener to absorb meaning at their own pace. The rhythm of his speech was slow, soothing, designed to guide hearts rather than challenge minds. As he broke the bread, he did so slowly, deliberately. The act was unhurried, a quiet symbol of sustenance, connection, and sharing. Wine was poured carefully, each cup passed hand to hand with attention and care. The ritual carried significance not in spectacle, but in its gentle reminder of continuity, presence, and compassion. The conversation moved lightly, touching on past journeys, shared experiences, and the importance of kindness. There were no raised voices, no hurried interruptions, only the steady flow of presence. Each follower felt seen, valued, and included. The room itself seemed to echo this calm, the walls absorbing the quiet energy of mindfulness and care. Jesus spoke to love that is patient and forgiving, love that does not seek to control, but to nurture. He described trust as a gentle current, flowing slowly and steadily through the heart, offering guidance without pressure. Each word was chosen for its simplicity and depth, carrying a timeless sense of peace. As the evening deepened, silence naturally emerged,
not a silence of absence, but a silence of fullness, where every sound, every breath, every flicker of candlelight could be appreciated. This quiet allowed reflection, allowing minds to settle and hearts to rest. In these moments, the teaching was not in words alone, but in the rhythm of presence, the stillness of being, and the deep sense of acceptance that filled the space. Time passed without urgency. Each second stretched naturally, carrying with it awareness and calm. The night wrapped the room in a protective embrace, allowing thoughts to drift gently like leaves on a slow-moving stream. There was no pressure, no need to act, no sense of hurry. The world outside continued, but inside, time felt expansive and soft. The lessons of patience, humility, and compassion permeated every small gesture, every shared glance, every gentle touch, every soft smile reinforced the same message, that calm, attentive presence is a powerful form of teaching. The followers absorbed this quietly, learning not just through words, but through experience and observation. When the meal concluded, there was no abrupt departure. Each person remained for a while, basking in the calm and quiet, letting the night linger. Conversations grew quieter still, eventually giving way to contemplative silence. Jesus encouraged rest, not only physically, but spiritually, emphasizing that peace comes from inner stillness. As the room emptied gradually and the night deepened outside, Jesus remained for a moment longer, sitting in gentle reflection. His breathing was slow, steady, rhythmic. Every movement was measured, intentional, and calm. Even in solitude, his presence exuded peace, providing a template for how to exist fully in quiet awareness. The path ahead, though filled with challenges, was approached with serenity. Jesus demonstrated that even moments of profound significance can be met with composure, patience, and gentleness. His life showed that deep calm can coexist with purpose, that presence can carry weight without tension, and that meaningful change can unfold quietly over time.
After the gathering of the evening, Jesus moved gently into the open night. The world outside was calm, wrapped in darkness and soft air. The sounds of the city faded behind him as he walked toward a familiar quiet place where trees stood patiently and the ground felt cool beneath his feet. Each step was steady, unhurried, guided by a deep inner stillness. The garden welcomed him with silence. Leaves rested without movement, and the sky stretched wide above, scattered with distant stars. Jesus paused, breathing slowly, allowing the calm of the night to surround him fully. There was no resistance in his posture, no tension in his movements. Everything about him reflected quiet acceptance. Those who walked with him followed at a respectful distance. They sensed the depth of the moment, though they did not fully understand it. Jesus invited them to rest nearby, encouraging stillness rather than vigilance. His voice was gentle, almost whispered, reminding them that rest was not weakness, but trust. He moved a little farther into the garden, choosing a place where solitude felt complete yet comforting. There he sat quietly, hands resting lightly, eyes turned toward the earth and sky alike. Prayer rose within him, not as words spoken aloud, but as a steady awareness, a deep connection that required no sound. The night air was cool and soothing. Each breath slowed naturally, aligning with the rhythm of the world around him. In this stillness, Jesus reflected on the path unfolding ahead. There was no panic, no resistance, only acknowledgement. Acceptance flowed through him gently, like a calm river moving toward the sea. Time passed without measure. The boundary between moments softened. The world felt suspended, held within silence. Jesus remained present,
allowing every thought to pass without attachment. This surrender was not defeat, but peace, peace rooted in trust and purpose. Nearby, his companions drifted into sleep, their breathing slow and steady. Jesus noticed this without judgment. He understood their weariness, their human need for rest. Compassion deepened within him, extending not only toward them, but toward all who struggled under unseen burdens. When he returned briefly to them, his movements were quiet, careful not to disturb their rest. He spoke softly, encouraging calm rather than alertness. There was no urgency in his tone. He returned again to solitude, allowing the night to hold him. The stillness of the garden deepened. Even the wind seemed to pause. In this sacred quiet, Jesus remained grounded, breathing slowly, embracing the moment fully. Every heartbeat felt aligned with something greater, something steady and unchanging. As the hours passed, subtle sounds emerged at the edges of awareness. Footsteps in the distance, the faint murmur of voices carried by the night air. These sounds did not disrupt the calm within him. He remained composed, rooted in stillness. When those approaching drew near, Jesus rose gently, without alarm. His posture remained relaxed, his expression peaceful. There was no resistance in his movements, no sudden shift in energy. He greeted the moment as one greets the dawn, aware, open, accepting. Those who arrived spoke with purpose, yet Jesus responded with quiet clarity. His voice remained even, his words simple. There was no argument, no struggle. The exchange unfolded calmly, without escalation. Even tension dissolved in the presence of his composure. His companions stirred, confused and uncertain, but Jesus reassured them with gentle gestures and calm words. He reminded them, through action more than speech, that peace remains available even in moments of uncertainty. As events continued to unfold, Jesus allowed himself to be guided forward. His steps remained steady. His breathing remained slow. His presence continued to soften the space around him. Even those who came with authority found themselves moving more quietly, more deliberately, influenced by the stillness he carried. The night journey away from the garden unfolded without resistance. The path was dimly lit, the air cool and steady. Jesus walked calmly, accepting each step as part of the unfolding story. There was no fear in his movement, only trust. Throughout this passage, the world seemed to slow. Sound softened, movements became deliberate. Time itself felt gentle, stretched and calm. Even gravity seemed lighter, as though the night itself supported each step. This part of the story does not rush toward pain or conflict. It remains anchored in surrender, compassion, and quiet strength. Jesus embodied peace not by escaping difficulty, but by meeting it with calm acceptance. The night continued its slow passage as Jesus was led onward, the world dim and hushed around him. Lamps cast small circles of light that moved gently across stone paths and resting walls. Each step unfolded without resistance, measured and calm, as though the night itself guided the way. The air remained cool, steady, and supportive, carrying the softness of late hours. Jesus walked without haste. His breathing was slow and even, his posture relaxed despite the weight of the moment. There was no struggle in his movements, no tightening of the body. Acceptance flowed quietly within him, not as surrender to loss, but as trust in a deeper unfolding beyond the surface of events. Those who accompanied him spoke in low voices, their words muted by the stillness of the night. Even authority seemed softened here, shaped by shadows and silence. The path forward felt less like a march and more like a quiet procession, guided by inevitability rather than force. As he arrived at places of questioning, the atmosphere remained subdued. Voices rose only slightly, never sharply. Questions were asked, answers received, and pauses allowed to stretch without interruption. Jesus responded simply, without embellishment, allowing truth to rest quietly in the space between words. Observers gathered at a distance, their faces calm with fatigue rather than intensity. The late hour dulled sharp emotion, replacing it with weariness and quiet attention. Some watched without judgment, others with gentle concern. No one rushed the unfolding moment. Jesus remained present, attentive and composed. His eyes reflected awareness rather than fear. Each breath anchored him to the present, to the stillness beneath circumstance. In this calm presence, even tension softened, losing its edge. Time moved slowly, almost imperceptibly. Minutes blended into one another, carried by the soft rhythm of the night. The world beyond seemed distant, wrapped in sleep, unaware of the quiet significance unfolding in these hours. As dawn approached faintly at the horizon, light did not rush in. It arrived gradually, a pale easing of darkness rather than a sudden change. With it came movement, gentle, unhurried transitions from one place to another. Jesus continued forward with the same calm steadiness. He did not resist direction, nor did he anticipate outcome. Each moment was met as it came, complete in itself. His presence remained a steady center, around which the world slowly turned. Those who encountered him during these early hours noticed the absence of agitation. There was no bitterness, no sharpness in his responses. Even silence felt intentional, filled with meaning rather than emptiness. As daylight slowly expanded, sounds returned softly to the world. Footsteps echoed lightly, distant voices carried across open spaces. The city awakened gradually, unaware of the quiet endurance taking place within its bounds. Jesus stood calmly through each transition. His body remained relaxed, his mind untroubled. The steady rhythm of breath continued, grounding him in presence and acceptance. There were moments of misunderstanding, moments when words failed to bridge distance. Jesus allowed these moments to pass without correction. He did not insist on being understood. Peace did not depend on agreement. Those closest to him felt a mixture of concern and quiet awe. They sensed the depth of his calm, though they could not fully comprehend it. His stillness offered reassurance even in uncertainty. As the morning progressed, the path led onward once more. The light grew warmer, illuminating faces and spaces gently. Nothing felt rushed. Even movement carried a softened quality, as though guided by restraint. Jesus continued to embody patience. His calm presence became a quiet teaching, demonstrating that inner stillness can remain untouched by outer movement. In this way, endurance became peaceful rather than strained. When fatigue appeared, it was met with gentleness. There was no resistance to weariness, only acceptance. The body moved as needed without complaint. The unfolding events did not seek dramatic emphasis. They remained grounded in simplicity and quiet observation. Jesus did not dramatize his experience. He allowed it to unfold naturally, trusting the larger rhythm beyond immediate understanding. As the hours passed, the world felt fully awake, yet the calm within him remained unchanged. Noise did not disturb it. Attention did not inflate it. Silence continued to nourish it. Those who witnessed him sensed something uncommon, not strength displayed, but peace maintained, not control asserted, but acceptance embodied. This quiet endurance spoke without words.
After the long night of stillness, the world began to change in the softest possible way. Darkness did not disappear suddenly. Instead, it loosened its hold little by little, making room for the faintest suggestion of morning. The sky shifted gently, deep blues becoming lighter, as if the night itself were breathing out and allowing rest to complete its work. The earth remained quiet. Stones held the cool of night. The air was calm and fresh, untouched by noise or urgency. In this peaceful hour, nothing rushed forward. Renewal arrived without announcement, without force, and without sound. Those who approached the resting place did so slowly, their steps careful and unhurried. Their hearts carried quiet devotion rather than expectation. They moved with gentleness, honoring silence, allowing the early light to guide them. Every movement felt deliberate, respectful, and calm. What they encountered was not confusion, not fear, but stillness shaped by change. The absence they noticed did not feel empty. It felt open, like a doorway gently left ajar, inviting understanding to arrive in its own time. The morning air held a subtle warmth now, a promise rather than a declaration. Birds began to stir softly, their calls low and unhurried. Light touched the landscape without intensity, revealing familiar shapes in a new way. Everything felt calm, held, and quietly transformed. When Jesus appeared again among his followers, it was without drama. There was no sudden brightness, no overwhelming display. His presence was gentle, recognizable, and deeply reassuring. Calm radiated from him, steady and warm, like sunlight resting on still water. He spoke softly, his voice unchanged, slow, kind, and patient. His words carried reassurance rather than explanation. He did not rush understanding. He allowed recognition to unfold naturally, giving space for hearts to settle and minds to rest. Fear dissolved quietly. Uncertainty softened. What remained was peace, deep, steady, and unforced. His presence reminded those around him that endings are often thresholds and that continuity can exist beyond interruption. Jesus walked with them again, not for long journeys, but for moments of reassurance. He stood beside them, sat with them, shared simple exchanges. These were not lessons in words, but in presence. His calm embodied renewal more clearly than any explanation could. He reminded them gently that love continues beyond loss, that light remains even when unseen, and that peace does not depend on circumstances. These reminders were not spoken as commands, but as shared understanding. As days passed, his presence appeared and receded naturally, like breath. Each encounter left behind calm rather than longing. His followers began to carry his stillness within themselves, discovering that the peace they felt near him could remain even in his absence. The world resumed its rhythm, but it felt subtly altered. Ordinary moments carried deeper softness. Work was done with more patience. Words were spoken with greater care. Silence was no longer empty, but meaningful. Jesus did not instruct them to hold tightly to the past. Instead, he invited them forward gently, encouraging trust in the quiet unfolding of life. His guidance emphasized continuity rather than conclusion. The message that remained was simple and enduring, that peace is not fragile, that love does not vanish, and that calm presence can continue through those who choose to carry it. As time moved forward, his physical presence became less frequent,
yet his influence deepened. The stillness he embodied became a shared rhythm, moving quietly through lives, shaping choices without force. Those who remembered him spoke not of spectacle, but of how he made them feel, seen, accepted, and calm. His life was remembered as a gentle invitation rather than a dramatic interruption. Even as the story reached its resting place, there was no finality. The light that emerged that morning did not fade. It settled into the world quietly, becoming part of the ongoing flow of life. This ending does not close a door. It opens a path that continues softly, carried by patience, compassion, and quiet trust.
After the gentle morning of renewal, life did not rush forward. Days unfolded softly, as they always had, shaped by light, rest, work, and quiet moments in between. The world did not announce change with noise. Instead, it absorbed it gradually, allowing calm to settle into ordinary rhythms. Those who had walked with Jesus returned to familiar paths. Nets were mended again, fields were tended, homes filled with evening light and shared meals. Yet something subtle had shifted. Movements were slower. Words were chosen more carefully. Silence was no longer something to fill, but something to honor. The calm Jesus embodied did not fade with his physical absence. It remained, like warmth held in stone long after the sun has moved on. In quiet moments, when hands rested, when breath slowed, when eyes closed at night, his presence was remembered not as image, but as feeling. People gathered occasionally, not to recreate the past, but to rest together in shared stillness. They spoke softly of kindness, patience, and trust. They did not argue over meaning. They allowed understanding to remain gentle and open, arriving differently for each person. Stories were told in low voices, often by firelight or at the close of day. These stories were simple: how he walked without hurry, how he listened without judgment, how silence around him felt safe. These memories were carried like quiet lamps, offering guidance without demand. As time moved on, the calm spread outward, carried by those who had learned its rhythm. It moved through conversations, through acts of care, through forgiveness offered quietly rather than proclaimed. No one forced it forward. It traveled best when left unpushed. In distant places, people who had never seen Jesus felt the effect of this calm indirectly, through gentler choices, through softened conflicts, through pauses where anger once rushed in. The stillness found new ground, settling where it was welcomed. Night continued to arrive each day, faithful and unhurried. With it came rest. People learned again how to release the weight of the day, how to trust sleep, how to let go. In these moments, the essence of his teaching lived on, not as instruction, but as permission to rest. There were times of difficulty, as there always are. Loss, uncertainty, and fear did not disappear, but they were met differently now, with patience rather than panic, with breath rather than resistance, with the understanding that calm can exist even when answers do not. Children grew up hearing these quiet stories, not tales of power, but of presence. They learned that strength can be gentle, that leadership can be quiet, and that peace does not need to announce itself to be real. Years passed, generations followed. The world changed in countless ways, yet the stillness remained available, waiting beneath noise, beneath speed, beneath fear. It asked for nothing. It could be entered simply by slowing down. Those who sought this calm learned to recognize it in small moments, in early morning light,
in shared bread, in listening without interruption, in choosing rest when exhaustion called. The message carried forward without words, that life does not need to be forced to be meaningful, that love does not need urgency to be strong, and that peace can be practiced quietly, moment by moment. This epilogue does not conclude a story, it rests within it. Like night resting within the cycle of days, it offers a place to pause rather than an ending to reach. As these words slow further, there is nothing left to follow, only breath, only stillness, only the gentle continuation of calm.
Long after stories had been told and retold, after names had traveled farther than footsteps ever could, the calm that Jesus embodied continued to move quietly through the world. It did not arrive with sound. It did not ask for attention. It simply appeared wherever people slowed enough to notice it. In small homes at the edge of towns, lamps were lit in the evening and meals were shared without hurry. The clink of simple dishes, the soft murmur of voices, and the steady rhythm of breath created a space where the day could gently dissolve. In these moments, the same peace returned, not as memory, but as presence. People learned, often without realizing it, to pause before speaking, to listen a little longer, to soften their shoulders as night approached. These changes were subtle. No one announced them, yet they reshaped days and nights alike. Travelers resting beneath open skies felt it as they watched stars move slowly overhead. Workers ending long days felt it when they finally sat down and allowed silence to settle. Parents sensed it when children fell asleep peacefully, their breathing deep and even. The calm moved through ordinary life like a quiet blessing. Generations grew up hearing gentle reminders rather than commands, stories of patience, stories of forgiveness offered quietly, stories of strength shown through gentleness. These stories were not used to push or persuade. They were shared as one shares warmth, freely, without expectation. As time passed, the world changed its shape many times. Cities grew and faded. Roads appeared where fields once rested. Voices multiplied. Noise increased. Yet beneath all of it, the stillness remained available, waiting patiently. Those who learned to return to it discovered that calm does not need perfect conditions. It can be found in early morning light before the world awakens. It can be felt late at night when activity slows and thoughts begin to drift. It lives in the space between breaths. In moments of conflict, some remembered to pause. In moments of loss, some remembered to breathe. These small choices mattered. They allowed peace to continue its quiet work, one moment at a time. The teaching carried forward without instruction that rest is not laziness, that silence is not emptiness, and that love does not require urgency to be real. These understandings settled gently, like dust returning to the earth. As nights came and went, people learned to trust them again, to let darkness be a place of restoration rather than fear. Sleep became a doorway, not an escape, an entry into renewal. Those who lay awake sometimes remembered simple images, walking without hurry, listening without judgment, sitting quietly beneath open skies. These images calmed the mind naturally, guiding it toward rest. The calm did not promise ease. Life continued to hold uncertainty, yet within that uncertainty, a steady presence remained available, not to remove difficulty, but to soften its edges. As this part continues, it does not seek conclusion, it rests in continuation. Like a river that flows beyond sight, the peace carries on, shaping unseen shores.
There is nothing here to solve, nothing to reach, only space to rest. As these words slow further, allow your breathing to deepen. Let thoughts pass without holding them. The night is doing its work.
Long after voices grew quiet and footsteps faded, the gentle rhythm that Jesus lived continued to echo through ordinary moments. It did not echo as sound, but as feeling, a subtle ease that appeared whenever life slowed enough to receive it. This calm did not belong to one place or one time. It moved freely, patient and unclaimed. In the early hours before sunrise, when the world feels unfinished and quiet, some sensed it while sitting alone with a cup of warm tea, watching light gather slowly at the edge of the sky. There was no instruction in these moments, only permission to breathe, to pause, to begin the day gently. Others felt it late at night, when tasks were finally complete and the body softened into rest. Shoulders dropped, breathing deepened, thoughts loosened their grip. In these moments, the same stillness returned, reminding the heart that it did not need to carry everything at once. The calm lived in listening, in conversations where one person waited without interrupting, in disagreements where someone chose patience over speed. These choices were small and quiet, yet they shaped the atmosphere around them, making space for understanding to arrive on its own. Children sensed it intuitively. They felt safe when adults moved more slowly, spoke more softly, and allowed silence to remain. In these spaces, sleep came easily, dreams unfolded gently, and mornings began without tension. Across time, people continued to tell simple stories, not to persuade, but to remember. How he walked without rushing, how he spoke without pressure, how his presence made room rather than filling space. These stories did not age, they softened with time, becoming more like lullabies than lessons. As the world grew louder in many places, this quiet way of being became more valuable. Those who rediscovered it often did so accidentally, by sitting still when everything urged movement, by choosing rest when productivity demanded more. Night after night, the same invitation returned, to lie down, to release the weight of the day, to trust the dark as a place of renewal. Sleep became a gentle teacher, repeating the same lesson, that letting go is safe. The calm did not remove difficulty from life. Challenges continued as they always have, yet they were met differently by those who carried this stillness within them. Reaction softened, breath slowed, perspective widened. In moments of grief, the calm offered space rather than answers. In moments of joy, it offered grounding rather than excitement. It balanced experience, allowing life to move without extremes. Those who practiced this way of living often noticed subtle changes. Their steps became quieter, their voices steadier, their presence more reassuring to others. Without trying, they carried forward the same gentle rhythm they had received. This continuation does not seek to add more meaning. It rests in what already exists. Like a familiar path walked again at night, it feels known, even comforting. As these words continue, there is nothing required of you. You do not need to understand, remember, or respond. Simply allow the pace to slow further. Breath in, slow and easy. Breath out, unhurried. The night is wide and patient.
As time continued its quiet movement forward, the gentle rhythm that Jesus lived did not fade. It settled into the background of life, like a steady heartbeat beneath sound and motion. It did not compete with noise. It waited patiently beneath it, always available. In ordinary mornings, when light filtered softly through windows and the world had not yet fully awakened, this rhythm could be felt. It appeared in unhurried steps, in moments where nothing demanded immediate response. These pauses were small, but they carried a deep sense of ease. People who learned to notice this rhythm began to move differently. They did not rush meals. They allowed conversations to breathe. They recognized when the body needed rest and honored that need without guilt. Life felt less like something to manage and more like something to experience. The calm was present in walking, in the gentle sway of movement, in the sound of feet touching the ground. Each step became a reminder that forward motion does not require speed, it only requires presence. At night, this rhythm became even clearer. As the world softened, the body remembered how to release. Muscles loosened, thoughts slowed, breathing deepened naturally. Sleep arrived not as collapse, but as return. Those who carried this calm noticed how it affected others. Rooms felt quieter when they entered. Conversations slowed without effort. Even tension eased slightly, as if responding to an unspoken signal of safety. Children responded especially strongly to this presence. They relaxed more easily. They slept more deeply. They sensed without explanation that nothing was required of them in these moments. Across days and seasons, the rhythm remained steady. It did not change with success or difficulty. It was present in joy and in fatigue alike, offering balance rather than intensity. People who encountered hardship learned to meet it differently. Instead of bracing, they softened. Instead of reacting, they paused. This did not remove difficulty, but it reduced suffering. The quiet teaching continued without words, that calm is not something to achieve, but something to allow, that peace does not come from control, but from trust. Even in places filled with motion and sound, this rhythm could still be found, in a single deep breath, in a moment of stillness amid activity, in choosing to slow when speed was expected. As this part continues, it does not build toward conclusion, it rests in repetition. Like waves reaching the shore again and again, the calm returns each time it is welcomed. There is nothing here to remember, nothing to decide, only space to rest. Allow your breathing to slow further. Let the rhythm guide you gently downward.
As nights continued to return, faithful and quiet, the gentle way of being that Jesus embodied remained close at hand. It did not arrive as memory or instruction. It arrived as a feeling that surfaced whenever the world slowed enough to receive it. A sense that nothing needed to be fixed in this moment. A sense that resting was safe. In the soft hours before sleep, many found themselves releasing the day more easily than before. Thoughts that once circled endlessly began to loosen. The body recognized familiar signals, the dimming of light, the quieting of sound, the steady rhythm of breath, and responded by softening. This still path did not demand effort. It opened naturally when striving paused, when shoulders dropped, when jaws unclenched, when the breath lengthened without instruction. Calm appeared not as something added, but as something uncovered. The rhythm was present in simple rituals, washing hands slowly, preparing a modest meal, sitting without reaching for distraction. These moments became invitations to return to ease. People noticed that when they rested more deeply, their days changed as well. Mornings began with less resistance. Movements felt more intentional. Reactions softened. Life did not become simpler, but it became gentler.
The calm carried into interactions. Words were chosen with more care. Listening became easier. Silence no longer felt awkward, it felt shared. This way of moving through life did not remove challenges. Difficulties still arose, as they always do, yet they were met with steadiness rather than urgency. Breath came first, response followed later. In moments of uncertainty, people learned to pause rather than rush toward answers. They trusted that clarity often arrives after rest. This trust changed the texture of experience, making space where there had once been tension. Night continued to be a teacher. Darkness was no longer something to fill or escape. It became a companion, offering restoration without expectation. Sleep arrived gently, carrying the body into renewal. Those who lay awake sometimes noticed the quiet around them, the distant hum of the world, the subtle movement of air, the steady beat of their own heart. These sounds reassured rather than disturbed. They signaled continuity. The teaching lived on quietly, that presence matters more than speed, that rest is not a reward but a need, and that peace grows when it is allowed time. As days and nights passed, this still path remained open. It did not close when forgotten. It waited patiently to be noticed again. This part does not seek to add meaning or conclusion. It simply rests within the ongoing rhythm, offering space to breathe and release. Allow your body to settle further. Let your breath become slow and even. There is nothing else to do. As the rhythm of nights and days continued, the gentle presence that Jesus left behind remained like a quiet light, never bright, never demanding, always steady. It did not chase attention, it simply stayed, illuminating moments when everything else softened. In the stillness before sleep, this light was often felt rather than seen. It appeared as a calm warmth in the chest, as a sense that nothing was missing in this moment. Breathing slowed, and with each slow breath out, the body released a little more weight. This quiet light lived in acceptance. It did not ask for perfection or progress. It allowed people to be exactly as they were, tired or alert, hopeful or uncertain. In this allowance, tension lost its hold. Many discovered that when they stopped resisting rest, rest arrived naturally. Muscles relaxed without instruction. Thoughts drifted without struggle. Sleep unfolded gently, like a door opening on its own. The calm extended into waking life as well. People began to carry a softer awareness into their days. They noticed small details, the way sunlight moved across a wall, the sound of footsteps nearby, the simple comfort of sitting still. This awareness did not pull them away from responsibility. Instead, it grounded them. Actions felt steadier. Choices felt clearer. Life moved forward without hurry. In conversations, pauses became comfortable. Silence no longer needed to be filled. Listening deepened, and understanding followed naturally. The quiet light also accompanied moments of difficulty. When challenges arose, it offered steadiness rather than solutions. It reminded the heart to breathe first, to respond later. Night remained a sacred space for renewal. Darkness wrapped gently around the body, encouraging release. Sleep became a return rather than an escape. Those who lay awake sometimes sensed that even wakefulness could be restful when met with kindness. There was no pressure to sleep, only permission to rest. The teaching continued without words. that peace is not fragile, that calm does not disappear when unnoticed, and that rest is always close. As this part flows onward, it does not move toward an ending. It settles deeper into repetition and ease, like a familiar path walked again under the stars. Allow your breathing to remain slow and natural. Let the quiet light stay with you as you drift further into rest.
As the night stretches wide and still, the gentle presence associated with Jesus continues, not as a memory, not as a story, but as a calm that seems to breathe alongside you. It does not arrive suddenly. It is already here, waiting to be noticed as everything else slows. In these late hours, when the world feels distant and softened, the body begins to remember something ancient and familiar. Muscles ease their hold. The mind loosens its careful watch. Breath becomes deeper without instruction, steady without effort. This presence does not speak in sentences. It speaks in sensations, in the quiet warmth that spreads through the chest, in the subtle release behind the eyes, in the way the body sinks naturally into the surface beneath it. Nothing is required in this moment. There is no lesson to learn, no understanding to reach. Rest itself is enough. Stillness itself is complete. Those who have felt this calm often notice how it removes the need to hurry. Time feels wider here. Minutes stretch gently, no longer pressing forward. The night becomes a safe container, holding everything without asking anything in return. The presence moves with the rhythm of breathing, in the slow rise of the chest, in the soft fall of the exhale. Each breath feels like a small reassurance, repeating the same quiet message: you are allowed to rest. Even thoughts that appear are softened by this rhythm. They drift in slowly and drift away just as easily, like clouds moving across a dark sky. There is no need to follow them. They know how to leave on their own. This calm has always lived close to ordinary life. It appears when effort pauses, when striving loosens, when control is gently set aside. During the day, it may show itself as patience. At night, it becomes rest. In both, it carries the same quality: steady, kind, unforced. The presence does not disappear when forgotten. It does not fade when ignored. It waits without judgment until attention naturally returns to it. In moments of waking during the night, it can still be felt. There is no pressure to sleep immediately. Wakefulness itself can be calm when met gently. The body knows how to return to rest. It has practiced this rhythm many times before. Trust allows it to happen again. Across long hours, the same quiet continues. Nothing dramatic occurs. Nothing needs to change. The stillness is enough. This part does not seek to conclude the story. It remains open, spacious, repeating the same gentle reassurance through its calm pacing. Let your breathing remain slow and natural. Let your body grow heavier. Let the night carry you further into rest. As the night moves quietly forward, the gentle presence of Jesus continues to be felt. Not as a story, not as an event, but as a subtle, steady calm that surrounds and embraces. The quiet is continuous, unbroken, and patient. In the soft hours when sleep approaches, the body begins to respond naturally. Shoulders loosen, eyes feel heavier. Breathing deepens, finding its own rhythm. Each exhale releases tension. Each inhale invites rest. The mind is no longer racing. It simply floats along with the natural flow of calm.
This unbroken stillness is present even when thoughts drift. They come like leaves on a slow river and gently float away. There is no need to hold on to them. They know how to leave on their own. The presence is also felt in ordinary moments, in the simple acts of the day, washing hands slowly, preparing a modest meal, sitting quietly, or walking with awareness. Each action becomes an opportunity to return to ease. Nighttime amplifies this rhythm. Darkness does not frighten. Silence does not press. Every sound, every breath, every small movement contributes to a gentle awareness that anchors the body to peace. Those who rest in this presence discover that challenges can be met differently, without rush, without force, without tension. The heart slows, the mind softens, perspective broadens. Life's difficulties remain, but they are easier to bear. This calm is not earned, it is not achieved, it is discovered by simply allowing the body and mind to follow their natural rhythm. Trust and patience create space for this awareness to settle deeply. The light of early morning approaches slowly, yet the stillness does not fade. It simply transforms, moving with the body and mind as they transition from rest to wakefulness. The calm is carried forward, quietly guiding the day. In moments of interaction, the unbroken stillness allows for gentler words, softer tones, and calmer movements. Listening deepens naturally, and understanding becomes easier to share. The teaching continues in silence, that rest is a right, not a luxury, that peace is always available when allowed, that calm can exist even amid change and uncertainty. As this part flows onward, there is nothing to achieve or complete. There is only continuation, repetition, and gentle release. The narrative itself becomes part of the night's rhythm, carrying the listener further into restorative sleep. Breathe deeply and slowly. Let your body release weight with each exhale. Let your mind float in the gentle current of calm. The unbroken stillness surrounds and supports you. In the quiet hours, long after activity has ceased, the gentle presence associated with Jesus continues to ripple softly through the world, not as a story to recall, but as a calm that is felt within the body and mind. It waits patiently, always available to those who slow down and notice. As sleep draws near, muscles release, the breath deepens, and thoughts loosen. The body remembers the rhythm of rest, and the mind flows gently with it. Each exhale carries away tension. Each inhale brings a quiet warmth. There is no need to strive. Simply being is enough. This gentle continuation is felt in small, ordinary moments. Preparing a meal slowly, sitting quietly with a cup of tea, walking with awareness of each step. These actions become opportunities to reconnect with calm and ease. Night amplifies this quiet rhythm. Darkness wraps softly around the body, and silence becomes a companion rather than an absence. Sounds are gentle reminders of life, not distractions or demands. Each subtle noise is a part of the unfolding peace. Those who carry this calm into waking moments notice small differences. Conversations flow more easily. Patience appears naturally. Even in challenging situations, responses become softer and more measured. Life continues, but with a gentler rhythm.
This stillness does not require attainment. It does not depend on external circumstances. It exists when the mind and body allow it, patiently waiting to be discovered. Trust in this quiet presence allows it to settle deeply. The early morning light comes softly, and the calm transforms rather than disappears. The peace travels forward with the day, influencing actions, thoughts, and interactions without demanding recognition. Through repeated nights, the listener can recognize the unbroken nature of this presence. It flows in continuity, allowing moments of reflection, release, and renewal to coexist with rest. The lesson is quiet but profound. Rest is a necessity, not an optional reward. Calm is always accessible, and the rhythm of the night can guide the body and mind toward restoration.
As the night deepens and hours stretch quietly onward, the calm that Jesus left behind continues to flow without interruption. It is not a sound or a vision. It is a feeling that moves softly within, as if the body itself recognizes a rhythm long known. In this quiet, the body responds naturally. Shoulders release their tension. Jaw softens. Breath lengthens, finding its own slow pace. Thoughts, once insistent, drift gently, no longer demanding attention. Each inhale brings a quiet warmth. Each exhale releases a subtle weight. This ever-present calm is found not only in sleep, but also in ordinary moments. Walking slowly, preparing a simple meal, sitting in reflection. These small acts become opportunities to reconnect with stillness. There is no hurry, no pressure, only gentle presence. Night enhances this rhythm. Darkness wraps around the senses, offering safety and quiet. Sounds of the world become gentle companions, not distractions. Each subtle noise contributes to the sense of continuity, like soft waves moving endlessly. Those who carry this calm into waking life notice its effect. Conversations are slower and softer. Patience arises naturally. Even challenges are met with steadiness rather than haste. Life continues, but with a gentler, more measured rhythm. The calm does not require achievement. It is not earned through effort or recognition. It exists naturally, waiting for attention, settling when allowed. Trusting this rhythm invites it to deepen and expand within the mind and body. In the early hours of morning, this calm transforms rather than fades. The first light moves softly across the world, and the peace moves with it, grounding the day in steadiness. Presence becomes a companion throughout waking moments, gently guiding actions, thoughts, and interactions. Repeated nights reinforce this rhythm. Rest and renewal become familiar companions. Each night an invitation to let go and breathe deeply. The narrative itself merges with this rhythm, carrying the listener further into restorative sleep. The message is quiet but profound. Rest is essential. Calm is always accessible, and the gentle rhythm of night supports restoration without effort. No words are needed. No instructions are required. Only presence and surrender. Allow your breath to lengthen. Let the body sink deeper into comfort. Let the ever-present calm guide you into sleep, carrying you gently through the night. As the night stretches on, the quiet presence of Jesus flows gently, unbroken and patient. This calm does not rush or demand attention.
It exists in every breath, every heartbeat, every pause between thoughts. It is a soft horizon, always there to guide the mind and body toward rest. In the still hours, the body begins to respond to this gentle rhythm. Shoulders loosen, muscles release, and the breath finds a slow, steady pace. Thoughts drift without urgency. Each inhale brings a quiet warmth. Each exhale carries away the weight of the day. This soft horizon is present in ordinary moments as well. A slow walk, preparing a warm meal, sitting quietly in reflection. All these acts become opportunities to reconnect with calm. There is no need to hurry, no pressure to perform. Presence itself is enough. The night amplifies this gentle rhythm. Darkness wraps softly around the senses, offering safety and stillness. Sounds of the world become gentle companions rather than distractions. Every subtle noise contributes to the sense of continuity, like soft waves touching a distant shore. Those who carry this calm into waking life notice subtle shifts. Conversations become slower and softer. Patience arises naturally. Even challenges are met with steadiness rather than haste. Life moves forward with a gentler, more measured rhythm. The calm does not require effort or recognition. It exists naturally, waiting for attention and settling when allowed. Trusting this rhythm invites it to deepen and expand within the mind and body. Creating a foundation for rest and renewal. As morning approaches, the soft horizon transforms rather than fade. Early light moves slowly across the world, carrying the same peace into waking moments. Presence becomes a companion, grounding actions, thoughts, and interactions. Repeated nights reinforce this rhythm. Rest and renewal become familiar companions, each night an invitation to release and breathe deeply. The narrative itself merges with this rhythm, guiding the listener gently into restorative sleep. The quiet lesson remains. Rest is essential. Calm is always accessible, and the rhythm of night supports restoration without effort. No instructions are needed. No urgency is required. Only presence, patience, and surrender. Allow your breath to slow further. Let the body sink deeply into comfort. Let the soft horizon of night carry you gently into sleep and uninterrupted rest.